What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Rob. I like to play games, and welcome back to the Commander Corner. Sorry we were gone last week. Pokemon Go Fest kind of took up my Saturday. I wasn't able to get a recording done, but we are back this week with a brand new deck tech, and I want to share with you what I have been working on. This is an exciting deck from the Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, which was a fantastic set, and I figured with some of the hype coming from MagicCon Amsterdam, it'd be a great time to show off one of my favorite commanders from that set. Kamigawa was one of my favorite sets of all time, the original Kamigawa. It's kind of what got me back into Magic. Neon Dynasty was an absolute, beautiful set. I loved everything there was to do with it. So let's dive right in and take a look at this deck. All right, and here we are. This is our commander. We are going to be showing off today a deck based around Greasefang, Okiba boss. He is a 3-mana 4/3 Orzhov commander, one of anything white-black. Legendary creature, Rat Pilot. Yes, he's a rat, so this is going to be what I've dubbed the Biker Mice from Mars, if you remember that 90s cartoon. This deck really kind of brought those feelings back to me. So, what does Greasefang do? At the beginning of combat on your turn, return target vehicle from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste, and then you return it to its owner's hand at the beginning of your next end step. So this is kind of a interesting reanimator style deck, where our reanimation targets are actually vehicles. It is something that is unique, in my opinion, to a reanimator style. And as most of you do know, I am a huge fan of artifacts and the like, and so this was one of those decks that I've always wanted to make vehicles work, and this was my attempt at doing that, and I feel it does a very good job at that. So first things first, we need to get these vehicles into the graveyard, and we need to get them there quickly. So how are we going to do that? Well, we have a couple options. First, we have our more or less self-placement effects. They're listed as tutors because you are searching your deck. Things like Entomb, Cynical Loner, Oswald Fiddlebender, which is very much a tutor. He's going to be important for other things, and Buried Alive. Notably, Entomb, the Cynical Loner, and the Buried Alive all search your library for cards, creature cards specifically, and put them into the graveyard. And honestly, I think Buried Alive may have been a misplay because these are not creatures initially, so that's my bad. We'll have to find an upgrade for that eventually. But the other options we've got here is self-discard. Things like Putrid Imp, Tireless Tribe, Iron Shield Elf, Olivia's Dragoon, and Seasoned Hollowblade. All of these have discard effects that allow us to do things to pitch our massive vehicles into the graveyard so that Greasefang can reanimate them on a subsequent turn or that very same turn. Now, what are some of the payoffs that we're doing here? Well, we've got our finishers. Peace Walker Colossus isn't really the finisher we want. This is one that kind of just sits on the battlefield so that we can just pay 2 mana and animate our vehicles. But it's very nice because it is a big 3 mana 6/6. The crew 4, though, is kind of difficult. Luckily, though, Greasefang can crew it if we want. We're also running Knight Paladin. It's a 5 mana 6/6 with Trample. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 4 damage to each opponent. Crew 1, great. We want these low crew costs, and you're kind of going to see why here in a second. Then we picked up the Thanos Copter from the new Marvel set. 6 mana 5/5 with Flying and Haste. When it enters, vehicles you control become artifact creatures until end of turn. This is going to animate all of our vehicles that may still be around later in the game. So it's a great use of our mana, as well as a great vehicle for that, as it's a self-animation. It also says whenever a vehicle you control deals combat damage to a player, draw cards. So this is going to be great for refilling our hand. We're also running Reaver Titan, this one again from the Warhammer. This is a 7 mana 10/10 that has protection from mana value 3 or less. Honestly, a lot of people don't think much on this, but how many removal spells actively cost more than 3 mana? Yeah, there's not a lot that are being played in Commander these days, so this thing is pretty much just never going to get touched. Or chump blocked. Like, they're going to have to block it with something actually valuable. When it attacks, it deals 5 damage to each opponent. Cool, great. We're going to be burning out people. And then crew 4, again, Greasefang can crew it on his own. We also are running the Salvation Engine. This is a 5 mana 6/10 artifact crew 6. We're probably not going to animate this one too often, but it does give our other artifact creatures +2/+2. All of our vehicles are artifact creatures. And then when it does attack, return up to 1 target artifact card from your graveyard to the battlefield. That's going to another allow us to recur things. We do have also a nice swath of token generating vehicles. These are in here solely because our vehicles are going to come back to our hand at the end of turn when we reanimate them with Greasefang. We want them to leave behind bodies. We want them to leave something there that we can block with because we're kind of going all out. These tokens can also help us crew the vehicles as well, so it's kind of like double-edged there. So, Night Scythe, 3 mana 3/1 from the Necron deck. When it enters, create a Necron Warrior creature token. That's a 2/2, and it has Crew 2. Just a cheap one for us to be able to do. Typically not our reanimation target, but we'll take it. Cybership, 6 mana 8/8. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, put the top 2 cards of that player's library onto the battlefield face down. So the first turn this thing attacks, it doesn't really make us any token, or the first turn we play it doesn't do much. But if we can get this crewed, again, crew 4, Greasefang can crew it. We're going to get 2/2/2 artifacts from our opponent's deck, not even, our cards. So great there. It's nice removal in that way. We're running the Pridwin from Fallout, 6 mana 6/6 flying. Whenever another non-token artifact enters the battlefield under your control, you make a 2/2 human knight. This creature gets +2/+2 as long as there's an artifact enter the battlefield under your control this turn. Again, helping us create more tokens as we play more of our vehicles. It's also got a really cheap crew cost, so this one's not a bad one to have in play. We're also running the Thunderhawk gunship, 6 mana 6/6. Enters, create 2/2 white Astraces warrior tokens with vigilance. When it attacks, attacking creatures you control gain flying. Again, just a really nice. It makes two bodies when it comes into play. One of them can crew the gunship, which is great, and keeps blockers up. We're also running the Necron Monolith. 7 mana 7/7 flying indestructible. Whenever it attacks, mill 3 cards for each creature card milled this way. Create a 2/2 Necron Warrior. We may not hit that ability all too often, but a 7 mana 7/7 flyer that we're reanimating can really, pound in some damage on our opponents. We are also running the Rolling Hamsphere from Bloomborough. 7 mana 4/4 that gets +1/+1 for each hamster you control. And whenever it attacks, you create 3 1/1 red hamster creature tokens, and then it deals X damage to any target where X is the number of hamsters you control. So right out the gate, this thing's going to become a 7/7 when we use it. If we're able to reanimate it on subsequent turns or just keep it out there, it's going to continue to churn out more and more bodies, deal more damage, remove things from the board. Again, as hopefully you can see, a lot of these have really strong enter the battlefields trigger. We are also running Valor's Flagship. This one I'm mostly running because of the cycle cost, to be perfectly honest with you. It's a 7 mana 7/7 flying first strike lifelink. Great vehicle, nothing against that. But I like it that it has cycling for X2 and a white when you cycle it, so you would discard it and draw a card. You create X11 pilots that can saddle or crew vehicles as though they were power 2 greater. So this not only creates us pilots to crew our vehicles, draws us a card, but he puts this in the graveyard for Greasefang to reanimate. So I felt it was really strong with what we're trying to do here. And then lastly, we're using the Parhelion 2. It is an 8 mana 5/5 flying first strike vigilance. Whenever it attacks, create 2 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance that are attacking. So again, just a really strong token creation. Great body, first strike vigilance. Makes 2 angels that are flying in vigilance, so those things aren't tapped. And then crew 4, again, Greasefang can just crew it the moment it comes into play. We are running a few other just utility vehicles throughout this deck. We're running the Regalia, as it allows you to reveal cards off the top of your library until you reveal a land and put it on the battlefield tap. We're also running the Strixhaven Sky Coach. When it enters, search for a basic land, reveal it, and put it in your hand. Again, just another way for us to kind of excel there. Cultivator's Caravan, it's a 3 mana rock. I'll just say what it is. That's exactly what this thing is meant to be. However, it does have vehicle synergy. It is a 5/5 when it gets animated. So late game, say we reanimate the Thanos Copter, it's gonna come on out. It's gonna deal some damage, and it's gonna be pretty big. Another vehicle that I took from the Marvel decks was Damocles, the base, Damocles base Sword of King. Sorry, 5 mana 5/5 flying Death Touch, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, that player faces a villainous choice. They either sacrifice a non-token creature, or they lose 2 life, and I get to draw cards. We're hoping for the card draw most of the time. We're also running like the Weatherlight in here, Smuggler's Copter. That's a fairly standardized one. As well as a few sacrifice outlets. Because of the way Greasefang works, the vehicles are coming back to our hand. We don't really want them in our hand. We want them in the graveyard. So we're running like Umbral Caller Zealot, Zahir's Glory's Past, as well as Dreadmobile. These all have sacrifice effects on them to allow us to put those vehicles back in the graveyard. Dreadmobile, just so happens to also be a vehicle. 3 mana 3/3 with Menace is perfectly fine with Crew 1, but then when you sack an artifact or a creature, it gets a +1/+1 counter. We are also running a few pilots here, specifically because they have, this ability where, it crews vehicles as though its power were 2 greater. So this crews vehicles as a 4/4, or as a 4-power creature. Cool. That's going to help us with almost all the vehicles we have. Okiba Reckoner Raid, this is a saga that's going to flip into a pilot for us, more or less, that gives all of our vehicles menace. We're also running Deathless Pilot. Again, it cruises if its power was 4, and it can return from our graveyard to the hand. So if it dies, we do have the ability to bring it back. And Interface Ace, which pilots as though with its toughness. And then when it becomes tapped during your turn, untap it. So you can actively use this to crew 2 vehicles, which I feel is really, really strong. Stitcher Suppliers in here solely so that we can mill things, and then we do have a decent amount of sacrifice in our removal package. Bone Shards, Embrace Oblivion, Hellish Sideswipe. Amrax allows us to discard our things. Nautiloid Ship. If you know me, I love Illithids and Mind Flayers from D&D. I had to include the Nautiloid in this. When it enters the battlefield, exile target player's graveyard. When it deals combat damage to a player, you may put a creature card exiled onto the battlefield under your control. Surge Hacker Mech, another great vehicle for this, enters the battlefield, deals damage equal to twice the number of vehicles you control to target creature or planeswalker. Sovereign Skyship enters the battlefield, does 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker, as well as Demonic Junker, making everybody sacrifice cards and creatures, including ourselves. This is great because we can sacrifice one of our crewed up vehicles that we're swinging with, give him 2 +1/+1 counters. It has affinity for artifacts, so this is going to get played pretty cheap in our deck if we can get going. And then just, swing out. Outside of that, our draw section does have a few more sacrifice outlets for us. We have the Dockside Chef, sack an artifact to draw a card. Gas Guzzler when it gets to max speed, which we're probably going to hit relatively quickly if we can start your engines going. This deck is rather aggressive being a reanimator. We're going to be swinging with some big stuff pretty quickly. But it's black, sack another creature or vehicle, draw a card. Chronomancer, same thing. 1, sacrifice another artifact, draw a card. Deadly Dispute, Eviscerator's Insight. I picked this one specifically because of the flashback for this deck, because we are doing a little bit of self-mill, as you guys have seen. Reckoner's Bankbuster. This is just a solid creature, or vehicle rather. Reckoner's Bargain, Smuggler's Copter we've already talked about. SRAM is a must-have for any sort of aura, equipment, or vehicle deck, so auto include there. The The Praetorian from Necrons here. When it enters the battlefield, you draw 2, lose 2. So just some artifact synergies. Braids I put in Arisen Nightmare. I know. Get it out now. Braids is one of those things people always have an issue with, but I think braids works really well in this, because this braid specifically, because at the beginning of your end step you may sacrifice an artifact, creature, enchantment, land, or planeswalker. If you do, each opponent must sacrifice a permanent of their choice. This allows it to more or less sacrifice our vehicles, and then for each opponent who doesn't sacrifice something, we get to draw cards. So great there. Weatherlight, Canoptic Spider, and then Damocles again. So yeah, with that, I know typically we would go into a playtest, but going through uh, the way videos have been working, seems like you guys are not as interested in the playtest. If I am wrong with that, please comment on this video and tell me, hey, Rob, I want to see the playtest again. Um, but if you guys aren't and you guys just want the quick deck techs, I'm cool with that too. Please make sure to comment, like, subscribe on this video. You can find me in the Jungle Games Entertainment Discord. Link to that will be in the description of this video. Um, Other than that, look forward to seeing you all again soon. Look forward to a video coming out hopefully Wednesday if I can get everything edited. We started our pre-con league last night, and that video is going to be coming out. But outside of that, again, I appreciate all of you guys' support, and until next time, my name is Rob. I like to play games, and we'll see y'all soon. Take care, everybody.